Don't let them in. Don't let
Oh,
them
the
see.
banana.
You're the girl you always have to be. Conceal, don't feel. Don't let them know. But now they know.
I'm
Let
just
it
shaking cats,
go.
alright.
Let it go. Can't hold me back anymore. Let it go.
Yeah, it's only fun and games until someone pokes their eyes out, or until someone starts to sing.
Or dance.
Go on, Tim, you know you want to. Right as the show starts. And you've shrunk again.
Oh, yeah. I'm small. I'm short.
Go on.
Stand up, man.
Break out in song, you know you want to. And he's just not going to do it now. Ah, do it, figures.
Oh, we're live.
Yes, we are live.
Oh, hello.
Ah, boy.
This is the soundtrack of my life.
Well, hello, everybody. It is Pseudo, and welcome to the Campfire. It is Tuesday, and we are joined by a special guest from MotigaUnleashed, and we are also joined by the hosts with the mosts. We've got Screenager. Say hi, Screen.
Hi, Screen.
We have Blank. Hi, down there.
Hello.
And we have as our very special guest, Tim Darius. Is it Slacker? Slager?
It's close. That's what my wife calls me. Slacker.
Slacker.
Slacker. That's what Blank
Soccer.
apparently calls me also. Soccer? I don't play soccer. Oh, I'm going to shrink again. This is weird. I have like a box for my life right now.
Well, it's best to have a box for your life when you happen to live inside what would be classified as your own theme music. So, you
I
know.
have a shirt that plays theme music too. Thank you, Think Geek. And now it's stuck in Blank's head.
And the best part about this is I have yet to see the movie, so I'm going to be trolled throughout the show. It's going to be great. Anyway, so today's episode is called Something Old, Something New, and we'll be getting into that very, very shortly. Hello to all of you guys who have joined us today, who are here early to participate in the grilling, where it is time for us to basically take this wonderful man, who for some reason occasionally wants to be called Daddy, and put him onto a grill and campfire and cook him. And roast him, as we do properly. And Blank doesn't seem to recall that because I don't think he was there for that part of the pre-show conversation. That's great.
I don't remember that either.
Of course he doesn't. Right, so let's start off with a good old-fashioned roasting that we're going to put everybody through who joins our show. And let's start off actually by saying, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about MotigaUnleashed?
Absolutely. So my name's Tim Darius. I got my start in the gaming community in '97 with Stratix, and I'm actually still part of Stratix. So I've been around for a couple of years. Moved around, did some radio stations. I saw that, Dawn. I did some D&D radio, Subspace radio, some various other things. I also started Ashron's Call Radio in 2001. So before there was any real mainstream things like Twitch, we did a radio station called Ashron's Call Radio at Stratix. So that was pretty fun.
Was that back in the day before the electricity?
Yeah, that was right back, right
With Edison.
right at that point.
With Edison.
I
Paper
actually
and
live
pen,
in Edison's
D&D.
hometown. So MotigaUnleashed is a website dedicated to the company Motiga up in Bellevue, Washington. We don't know what they're making, but there's a lot of talent there. And I was sitting there and talking to Jordan, who was going to join us, but he's got some stuff going on today. And I was like, you know what? Hey, what are they doing? What is Troy Hewitt and all of these other folks that we have seen? You know, Chris Chung worked at NCSoft for so many years. What are they making? And we don't know yet. We're still trying to figure that out. So we sat down and we were like, hey, let's put together a site. Let's speculate. Let's look at all the information, all the data they put out there, and see if we can't figure it out. And we have some ideas. We have some concepts, but none that are solid or have any specific evidence to prove that that's what they're making. So we're gonna finish that up hopefully this week or next week, and and see what we can't find out, and hopefully we get it right when they announce, which hopefully will be soon.
Speculation, something that us gamers love to do, right?
It's theory crafting.
It is.
Sort
It's
of,
theory
without
crafting. Well, kind of. You have to take the little hidden bits and bobs and try to put it together to come up with some kind of cohesive. I was almost wanted to say a cohesive quilt that explains what it is.
I call it a little more than a tinfoil hat and a website anyway.
A little more than a tinfoil hat and a website. Great. But yes.
It's true.
So now
we did find one piece of information. I'm sorry, Joseph.
Oh, no. Go ahead. We're all for that info.
We do shows with the developers every couple weeks. I screwed up on some dates, so we're skipping a week. But found out on the last show when we sat down with Joe Pickup that the Motiga logo and the name Motiga is an actual thing. So it is a Motiga. That dino is a Motiga. What that is, I have no idea. But
nice.
We know that now.
It's cute, whatever it is.
Right.
We got some major spoilers from Troy as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I watched the show with Alex.
Yeah, it goes forwards, backwards, both sideways.
Keyboard. Yep. Keyboard and mouse.
They said it was a game.
Confirmed. Keyboard and mouse confirmed. Yep.
We found out there was artwork.
Oh.
So that's good.
Oh. Hey, you got one step more than we did. I mean, we were unsure if even a monitor was in use at the time during that particular.
Yeah, well, I heard VR. I heard there was going to be a whole helmet and a whole thing. You know, there's some crazy speculation out there. They're gonna attach a keyboard to your chest, and you're gonna play like this, like an actual dinosaur.
Like a dinosaur, as if your hands were short or something like that.
And you wear a helmet like this, and you walk around. It's great. It's what I've heard. There's a crazy speculation out there.
Sounds like that might be exactly it. Like a Guitar Hero playing dinosaur.
Yeah. Yep.
So with some sort of syndrome.
At which case, we really need to make certain that we get a ukulele for them. Haven't you ever seen a Dazar play a ukulele? Ever seen a dinosaur play a ukulele?
I'd like to see a T-Rex play one. And now I might have to mute my mic while I laugh a little.
Right. Okay. Right. So enough speculation. Let's grill you. So let us start off with our typical questions. Very first one. We would like for you to tell us 2 truths and 1 lie about yourself in any order. We don't want to know which one is which. And then we're going to speculate and have everybody who is watching speculate as to what is the lie. So see, 2 truths and 1 lie.
So that's not fair.
Well, see, this is where you get to dig deep and maybe discuss some things that Blank doesn't even know.
I know everything.
You sound like Batman.
I'm Batman. Shh. Was that Alfred?
Was that a lie? Was that a truth?
Oh, we'll never know. So, I am credited in 3 strategy guides. I was in the United States military, and I have a little daughter, 2 years old.
All right, so I'm going to have to pick on Blank. Which one is a lie?
Nope, I can't play. I have intimate knowledge of the source and subject.
That is not fair. You cannot pull yourself out of that. No. Fine. Screen.
Why don't you guys go first?
Go ahead, Screen.
Go last.
Go ahead, Screen.
I'm going to call bullshit on the daughter. I'm sure he's a daughter, but I'm saying she's probably not 2. I think he's trying to be subtle and sneaky. Because he looks like the sort of man you couldn't trust down a back alley with a bamboo stick.
If that's the case, does that mean you automatically put him in the military? Why couldn't the military be a lie if you don't trust him down a dark alley?
Well, they don't go down that many dark alleys. I mean, it depends. Well, I suppose with their recent conflict. Let's just not go that way.
You're analyzing that way.
I mean, if put them in the desert, it's fine. There's not that many back alleys in the desert. Or bamboo sticks.
I'm really curious as to what your definition is like of military now, Ed. I really am.
So assuming that we don't send them into jungle warfare or urban warfare, we're fine with them in the military. Yeah, I'm good with that.
I guess the phone agrees because we've just heard someone's phone completely agree. Right. Okay. I'll leave it at that. I think Ed has pretty much dug a hole deep for the campfire to try and dig out of. We'll move
My
on
logic
from there.
is sound.
Your logic is sound.
Sound.
It's soon. You wait, sir.
Soon.
The day you come over to Gamescom and I convince you that we got you in a back alley and it's actually VR, That will be a bad day for you.
Just don't bring your bamboo stick. We'll be fine.
Thank you.
Or be in the military, apparently.
Yes.
Yeah. Right.
What happens in your military?
Doesn't that stay when you're... What happens in military stays in... Anyway, let us just move on because...
It's the British military. All they do is have tea.
That's it.
Oh my gosh. I am so going to have to... Screen, I love you, but we're just going to let it go there. Okay.
Let it go.
We're gonna let it go.
Let it go.
Let it go.
Can't hold me back anymore. Let it go.
Let it go.
Turn away, slam. It just happened.
Yeah. We did just apparently go there.
I feel like we just got slimed. Like,
It's great.
It's like very old school, oh, never mind. I can't remember.
Nickelodeon.
Yes, I was about to say, I don't know, and you get slimed, and not everyone's going to get that reference because I'm old. And anyway, especially if you remember Moose. But,
Oh, yeah.
she was kind of cool. So, going back to roasting you, because otherwise it's just like no fair. Let us take you to a little more serious question. And let's say, with hindsight being 2020, that it is, can you describe for us a situation or a decision that you've made for your guild or community in the past that you felt at that moment in time was actually a really, really good decision, but now that you're looking back with, years of experience under your belt, you're kind of going, yeah, I would have done that different.
So that's an interesting question because there's a lot of things that, I've gotten involved in. I like to get my hands into a lot of different communities. But I would say that it all goes back to Asheron's Call Radio. And I thought it was a fantastic idea. And in 2001, I was younger than I am today, 19, 20, sitting in my mom's house in my back room. And technology wasn't the big thing back then. So it was a really terrible idea, or rather it was a really terrible setup. We had a bass mic, a speakerphone, and 2 large speakers. So whereas you just click a play button and the music now plays through Twitch, I had to turn the microphone to the speaker, hit play, and we couldn't talk for 5 minutes while the song played. Or if we wanted to have someone call in, we would turn the microphone to the speakerphone, hit the they would call in, I'd answer the phone, we'd get the mic as close as we could to the phone, and people would talk that way. The problem was I never turned off call waiting. And I also gave out my mom's home phone number. So 3 o'clock in the morning at random times in 2001, people are giving us a call, and my mom got pissed.
You pulled a Troy Hewitt.
That's like twice you pulled a Troy today. Most people don't know this, but yes, we did have an earlier Troy moment as well with him. But yeah, go ahead.
I was just testing you guys to see if you were ready. That's what it was, I promise you. But looking back now, there was technology, and the technology existed to do everything that I was doing at the time with less bass microphone than I was using. So looking back on that, I think I would have done a little bit more research before I started a show in the back room of my mom's house, and then get grounded for a long ass time because I had calls.
Would you say then that's actually kind of built the foundation of how you go about doing things now, always making certain that you've done research and are prepared?
Yeah, except for microphones. That I avoid those.
That seems to be your bane of existence. That's your kryptonite.
Right.
Microphones are your kryptonite.
It's true, and I told you guys before we got started is when I did my show a couple weeks ago, I was switching out my headset for a different one, and I ended up wearing 2 headsets. And I was talking during the entire show with 2 headsets, so they started calling me 2 Mike during the show. So it was interesting, but fun, and I think from now on I'm going to just wear 2 headsets, so it kind of follows. It just becomes a thing.
There's no such thing as overkill.
I'm going to go on the record and say yes, there is. If you know the trolls on our show, yes, there is.
Blank's castle back there is overkill.
No, I just thought you meant the amount of equipment that someone brought with them on a certain trip recently.
I am not going to make mention of how much equipment we had to carry for that show to London. That was crazy.
You just did. Now I'm curious. Let's go.
You know what? Let's finish roasting you, and then I'll make mention of it.
Change the subject.
No.
Post show.
Yeah, we'll do a small little post show thing about that because that was really funny. Really, really funny. Very painful as well. But anyway, yes, our very last question for you is, what is one of the most memorable events in your Guilder community life that literally has given you the greatest sense of accomplishment as an individual?
It's a really great question, and actually, Don was part of this, and he knew I was going to talk about this because it was a fantastic experience. So, we've been involved in WildStar for a lot longer than most folks. I started playing WildStar in 2012, actually, before it was even in beta. Was really involved in that group of people, and some of the nicest people I've ever met along the way. And we had gotten to talking about. Yeah, I have my shirt over yonder. So yonder, I said it's a word. Look it up. The fact that you have it so readily available, Don, makes me curious. Is it just like hit on a hanger, just you're ready to yeah.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
That's my like swaggity swag. It's right there. I'm just saying.
I couldn't hear you talk.
Well, see, that's what he does. He mutes himself throughout the show, and then when he unmutes himself, it takes a while for his lips to catch up with the sound, or the sound to catch up with his lips. So it's actually kind of funny. We haven't told him about this.
Yes, much better. So
please no.
I have a swaggity swag over here. And sometimes people will ask, because they'll be like, I saw you on this thing and it said you were a developer. And I'm like, it's a thing for a weekend. So
we got invited to work the PAX Prime booth with WildStar as part of the testing group. And so for 4 days, we basically just walked around talking about a video game to people. And my passion has always been to be a community manager. And so that was really the first kind of experience I had in that avenue in front of that many people. And we actually, we got to interact and help out with the party, the party that we were talking about a bit earlier. So that entire weekend, I think, was summed up in that party, where people are just coming up to you and you can see their passion. And when you have something that you love wholeheartedly, you can't help but smile when you see it and experience it. And somebody else that was working with me, a guy named Tanner, he and I were walking to the Hard Rock, and we had just left the show. The show had closed, and we had these Granok pins. Go ahead, Don. I'm sure you've got one over here. So we. I'm at work, so I don't have any of my swaggerific stuff over here.
However, we have been telling people that the bananas are part of your rider.
They are. So what I was saying is that...
Sorry, are we all grabbing things from around us? Because,
Are you going to grab Sailor Jupiter?
I'll bring Sailor Jupiter over here.
Your costume looks adorable.
Sit by it. Yeah.
I'm actually going to sit here and not pull something out of the bag. Go figure.
Wow. But we were walking down to the Hard Rock, and some guy, he didn't see us. Put your D away, Don.
I knew you were going to say it, so I just waited. I'm like, someone's going to do it.
So we were walking down to this. I can finish the story, I promise. We were walking down to the restaurant, and I caught somebody talking about, hey, did you go to the WildStar booth? It was spectacular. It was, I got to play the game. The devs were really cool. They spent some time talking to us, and he didn't see that I had my dev shirt on, and so I stopped, and Tanner just kept walking. I stopped. I turned around and I was like, "Here you go," and I gave him, the last pin that I had, and he's like, "Oh, thanks, man. Did you go to the WildStar booth?" And then he looked at my shirt and he goes, "Oh my God!" And I was like, "I'm not actually part of the development team. I'm one of the testers," but it made his day, and I think that was just one of the coolest experiences, because when I went to E3 in 2003, and that was my first expo, and I started talking to developers, I had that same sense of awe, and I mean, I hate to say it, when I was a kid, I looked up to them as celebrities, and now, some people still do that. Some people deify them. And, while that's well and good, I think that being able to be more personal in the industry and being able to be there and help people and show them that anybody's going to talk to you about something they're passionate about, and you can see that, was probably the greatest accomplishment that I've had. If you're watching, honey, since we got married,
I like how he added that in. I have to state though, I completely agree with you. I mean, we just recently had a WildStar event here in the UK over at Meltdown on Friday, and there is
Frost.
Yes, we had Frost there, which was kind of crazy and fun. And I did have to remind him, though, I do appreciate Team Frost. I am still a papalicious girl, and I think I always will be.
He just got promoted, actually.
Pappy. Sorry. But anyway, I was standing there. Now, I was wearing one of my guild T-shirts because our guild is heavily driven, or I should say my guild, because we're all in different guilds here. But my guild is heavily driven towards WildStar. That's like our goal and our focus. And we had these very specific shirts designed by one of our guild members for Gamescom of last year. Very orange, very in your face. If anybody watched the stream on Friday, you'll recognize it. And I had people walking up to me going, "So tell us about WildStar." And I'm like, okay, just so that you know, I'm not a dev. I am a fan. Just so that you know, I had to preface a lot of my conversations that way because a lot of people thought just because you had something special, unique, that you had, I guess, secret access to stuff. But one of the things that came clear to me was just how much passion people actually had. I had people who were at Meltdown who were just regulars of Meltdown going, "What's this thing? And why are there so many people here? And, why is everyone having such a good..." It just was one of those things where it's like, I was reminded yet again why the community is so amazing. And Yay for bringing us back on track by pulling it straight to the community.
You're welcome.
Yay. Okay. So now we get to move into the actual core meat of our show where we're going to be discussing something old, something new. And you're eating a banana. That is great.
I tried to do that one of these shows, and she said it was inappropriate, and she'd have to bleep the whole thing out.
This is live. You want one?
I do. I'm hungry.
I am too.
It'd be great if somebody handed you a
I know, like right now, somebody was just like, "Hey, thanks, bro."
Don't we just wish? But yes, so we're going to be discussing in today's episode something old, something new. Now, this is a topic that you wanted us to reach into and mess with, Darius.
Stuff. No, absolutely.
So I'm going to let you give us a little bit of a preface as to what it is that you're specifically wanting to talk about, and then we'll dig into the meat of our show.
Meat or bananas and banana right there.
Yes.
Thanks. So I obviously I've been involved in the industry since forever, and I think back to my first real experiences in Ultima Online, and the community managers and the involvement that Ultima Online had. And the community that built up around Ultima Online was not a developer-made community. The community literally built itself. And something that I think I actually picked this up from Troy is that a game doesn't make the community. A community makes the game. And I think that has been somewhat lost in recent times. Ultima Online, you had a server that you played on, or a shard at the time, and you knew the people on the server, and you had your own little niche, your own little group of people that you played with, but you would find a group of people and you would go fishing, or you'd go hunting, and actually I'm seeing a lot of that actually happening now in Archage, which is really, really exciting for me. But you would have player-run events, auctions, PvP battles. You would go dungeon crawling with someone, and a lot of that has been lost on modern MMOs. And I hate to talk about WoW, but as a standard, WoW has become the platform that people base at least the minimalistic side of their game on. And so if you look at the community that surrounds WoW, it's very split. It's very elitist on one end of the coin, and very, hey, I'm just going to raid on the other side of the coin. So I think that servers, events like what UO had, where there were actually seers, player volunteers, they would put together a story and an experience for players, is missing, especially from modern MMOs. And WildStar was the first game that I saw the passion in the community team bringing something back. So I think the industry is moving from that middle of the road where it was, super fun, super community centric, to money centric, because let's face it, that's what it was about, to getting back to the the community-centric side of things. And I think that that's where we need to go. And I think that it's now starting, but it's slow going. I'm eating my banana.
You can eat your banana. I'm going to chip in here. It's worth noting, there's something to be said for being too big for your community. Or your community being too big for you to really be able to properly give the attention and love that it deserves. I mean, some people, I'll put it bluntly, are really concerned about the launch of WildStar because they're like, we've got this great connection we've got going with the developers now. You've got your Twitters, you've got your ability to chat with them in some of the chat rooms, you've got the ability to get in touch with them through some of the forums, etc. But what happens when that number goes from being the amount that's currently in there in the pre-order and the beta to exploding and becoming so massive that who knows who on a first name basis? And, it starts off there. And a lot of people are concerned about what the transition is going to be. I'm going to be really curious to see how that actual transition occurs because I understand what it's like. I mean, when you're dealing with WoW and you've only got so many people who are monitoring the forums, so many community managers, so many developers, and then you've got billions and millions of people who are all like, you should be answering my question. You should be answering my needs. It can get really, really daunting. So I'll be curious to see how they balance it out. What I want to throw to you, Blank, is when it comes to being involved in a community, when it comes to being a part of something overarching and bigger than just your guild or the community that you build, say the Viking Nation, but just that huge game community. Are there any bits of advice that you want to make certain people kind of take with them as games evolve in how they connect to their communities?
It's kind of broad.
It is, but we get to try and nail it down into tiny little minuscule bits and bites and chunks, like bananas.
Here, you want a banana? It'll help.
I'm just glad it's not in your pocket. That had to be said. It just had to be said.
Oh no! Trying to keep the show slightly serious, not happening. No.
It's seriously a banana.
It is seriously a banana.
Communities over time, and how they're. When we talk to Troy and Ali, I really feel that Troy is a rarity because he understands that community has value. A lot of development companies do not see communities as having value. And they are going to, and it's funny because I've been having a couple of these conversations on the business side of stuff with the growth of YouTube and the growth of Twitch especially. People are connecting to tens of thousands of people a day and talking about your product. If you have a strong community that's out there reaching this many people, you can't pay for that sort of marketing. You can't pay for that sort of product placement that's going directly to your demographic and somebody talking good about it. I find what I'm really hoping is that development companies start seeing that the communities out there and what they're saying matters, and that voice is just going to continue to get louder and louder. I look just at I've been playing some ArcAge, and there's a difference with ArcAge and WildStar. WildStar didn't have the ability to purchase like an alpha. With ArcAge, you can. You would be surprised the amount of dollar bills that has come flying in for that development company. Now, it's something they need to do because it's part of their port over and stuff like that. I can understand that from the business side. And it's nice to be able to reaffirm that WildStar was able to take care of community first, other than having to do a sort of a deal. Like they did a marketing beta. That's what we're finishing up right now because they had such a strong community from the start. So there seems, what I'm really trying to say here is that community has and is going to continue to grow on multiple social platforms, and I hope companies start seeing the business part of this before it's too late. Before it's not just that one superstar on YouTube saying this stinks, and then a bunch of people are like, like a million people see it. No, there are more platforms, and they're growing out there, and they're connecting directly to people. And I'm speaking specifically about Twitch. So.
Right. So, Ed, for you, do you happen to have any advice for guilds or communities involving giant things like, oh, gee, I don't know, be patient and don't expect to have yourself waited on hand and foot by every developer out there? or any other thoughts that you have in regards to how things are changing, because they are, and they've been changing a lot.
Right. Well, let's be 100% honest and get to the truth of it. When you're establishing a community or a guild within a specific game, like you said already, Pseudo, when you have small communities in newer games, you're going to have a more direct relationship with developers than you will when you start a game on product launch and you've got, say, 1 million beta testers signed up and everyone eventually gets in, and you become one of that homogenized 1 million numbers that can't be seen to all the time. There's kind of two facets to this, really. If you genuinely want to help a community grow, then there are some things to understand. You got to understand that there's only so many hours in the day that a development team can have, and a community team can have from a publisher or from a developer's point of view. They're going to respond more favorably to people that they either know are going to give feedback that's qualitative and good, or people that are making an effort to give qualitative and decent feedback to them, and that are going to be an asset. Shouting and screaming is not going to build you a good reputation. And like we said before with Troy, reputation does carry you across different games. If this is your first time that you're moving into a community, then you've got to understand that. Let's be truthful about the matter as well. Getting in early does help you get your name forward. Let's be blunt about it. It does, because the player base in a community or a player base playing a game is going to be smaller when it's earlier on. That doesn't necessarily mean that you need to start throwing your name in the ring for every sort of game that's coming out under the sun from every big AAA developer, because that comes back again to what I said about good quality feedback at the end. If you're your community are just looking to be heard, then your feedback that's heard isn't going to be any good. So those sort of things you do have to understand. When you're wanting to be heard and you want, wow, it's that bad that he's just decided to log off, right, thanks.
I'm just sitting there going, everyone's going to move around. We're all going to be in different places. It's going to be great. The thing is, you bring up some very good points here. I'm not trying to cut you off, even though we got cut off in a variety of different ways. Hopefully the blank will be back soon. Until then, we're all going to hide in.
No, he's now blank. Uh-oh.
He is now you, and you are now Blankspace. If you don't mind, Tim, turn your camera on and off for me again. That'll take care of that little problem. We've had quite a few comments coming in through the chat, and I don't want to ignore them because honestly, it takes all of us to ensure that we build really powerful communities. And we've had a lot of different thoughts on what we've been mentioning so far. And I want to kind of pick up on what Alec had said. Alec had pointed out that you have to remove entitlement. If you don't have the time for X thing, then part of the game is beyond you. But hey, we have this part over here. I kind of need to make certain that we stress that. I think some of the problem comes is that a lot of people, I don't know whether it's, we could get into psychology if you really wanted to, but I don't know whether it's a cultural thing. I don't know whether it is an age thing. I don't know whether it's the fact that different types of games that have come out sort of offer this sense of, hey, the game owes me. I pay money, therefore it should give me exactly what I want, even though everyone's opinion of what they want is completely different than, say, somebody who lives right around the corner. I mean, can you just imagine trying to make a game that's a sandbox theme park that allows you to have RPG elements while not being an RPG at the same time? I don't even want to think about that. That just doesn't seem like fun to me. I'd much rather have a game that you could just say, this is what it is, and you can play it. Or not play it, your choice.
Well, you have to look at what people think, and I think you said it correctly, is entitlement exists. And I hate to take this to a different level, but in society, even kids today really have a sense of entitlement to everything that they do.
Well, first, before you go too far, allow me to state, you can go as deep as you want, and you can go as far as you want. I mean, this is the thing. You can't tackle community issues with being afraid to bring up things like, maybe something has happened where we need to remind people that you don't deserve anything. The game world doesn't owe you anything. Maybe we need to stress that. I mean, we do stress that community strength sits on individual shoulders. It's the individuals who make a community strong. So maybe we need to add another campaign to that. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Well, then I just didn't want to soapbox for any length of time.
Feel free to soapbox to a degree.
The idea that our society is growing up the way that it is. My wife's a first grade teacher, for example. One of her students' mothers told my wife that my kid is too cute to be mad at. So, and he's not doing well. So that string alone, and this isn't just an isolated incident. Things like that happen all the time. You go into a store and you'll see kids that beg and scream and cry until their parents give them what they want. It's such, and I'm not a good character reference for axes, but the point is that if we look at the parent-child relationship within an MMO player perspective, how much can the player cry and moan before the game conforms? And we look at games that have done that. Let's go back to Star Wars Galaxies. The combat upgrade. The combat upgrade was, I hate to say it because I love the game, a money grab.
Galaxies.
I miss Galaxies. I loved it. But Galaxies saw what happened to you, or what happened to WoW, and the success that WoW made in that standard kind of format. So Star Wars Galaxies was like, hey, our players have been saying that they want us to modify the combat system a bit. Let's do it to the extreme. And it ruined the game. It destroyed the community that was Star Wars Galaxies.
Do you think that was actually their, like, more or less their decision, or do you think it was more along the lines that they didn't have a foundation in the community, or like we have in today's day and age, where we could have everyone send a tweet to, I don't know, pick some developer somewhere and go, what is you thinking? You kind of have that kind of communication now. I didn't remember. I remember playing Galaxies a lot, and I sure as heck do not remember there being very much of a communication front, even through the forums, between the developers and the community itself. I mean, that's changed. I don't think a game company can really get away with that nowadays.
If you are not vocal, and I think Blank mentioned this, with so many media sources that you can put your face in front of your community, if you do not take advantage of those, you're not going to be successful. And I'm gonna let's look at War Z, the game that was made for the zombie apocalypse game that they made. They did nothing community except post on their forums with community flags, and that game, besides being probably my least favorite game, next to E.T. from Atari.
Oh, you had to go there.
I did.
Pop culture quote. This man is down with the kids and karate.
Oh, that game, man! Wow.
They recently dug up a bunch of them, but anyways, the developers didn't get in front of it, and that's why I applaud Motiga, and I have to say that in part, that's kind of why I wanted to start MotigaUnleashed. Is they could have probably, Troy is an absolute communicorn genius when it comes to doing things, and I wanted to see what I could do to help kind of spur that community, and I think we've done a great job. As MotigaUnleashed now gives the developers, when they first heard about it, I talked to Troy about it, and he was blown away. Chris Chung actually sent us an email and was like, "Oh my God, thank you for doing this." And it wasn't because we wanted them to be grateful or anything, but it was because of a true desire to know what they're making. And Troy and Allie and even David and Tony at Carbine, they're in front of the people. They're using Facebook. They're using Twitter. They're using Twitch. They're getting in front of people. And I don't think even WoW doesn't do it much. And they have the largest numbers of players. And so I think if they don't going forward, it's going to implode on itself. Use the resources, use the media, use people like you guys that want to talk to developers, that want to be in, help them spread the word. But people don't.
Well, see, that's the thing. I mean, we've had a question come up to us in the past about, hey, we're just a tiny group of people. We're terrified of talking to the devs. And, that was one of the questions that we had come into the Campfire when we had Troy and Allie here, which was lovely, which gave them a chance to have a say on it. But I think in some respects, the types of games and the genres of games that we have coming out nowadays have an impact on how communities feel they're either entitled or not entitled. And you know, I hate to say this, and I'm really hoping, and I've got my fingers crossed, and believe me, we have, you know, Ed in the background trying his best to get his hands on people. I want to get some people who are heavily involved in esports on here. Because the moment you add money to an equation, to a game, it changes the community in some way. And I mean, Blank's in there going, I know nothing about this. I don't know anything.
Oh, I know more than I want to know about esports. It is a conglomerate, that's not the word, it is a smash up of community, rep management, and marketing touching each other's butts as best as they can to achieve a monetary goal.
Hold on, there are bums involved here, and we've not touched
the
this
same
yet.
alleys.
We're waiting to touch it
Yes.
until we have someone from esports on here to actually touch it with us. Which just,
Wow.
This is really, really awkward.
The esports, my take on esports is it is the underworld of the industry.
Interesting.
It's the dark. It really is, though. I mean, it's the Fight Club. That there are things that happen you don't really talk about in esports. You know, if people could do PEDs and be better at League of Legends, I think they would. So it's, you know, MOBAs and that genre has exploded, but those are more competitive and not. They build a community, but it is more like that Fight Club mentality community or the underground community.
Well, see, that's the thing. I mean, we're trying to get some people on from who are involved with things like League of Legends and Dota 2 and things like that, especially considering the fact that with Blizzard looking at with HOTS is a completely different kind of mentality. It's not if you get that last hit in and you get that kill shot, you get the XP. So basically, you're fighting your teammates to grow and level in most MOBAs. You don't do that in HOTS. In HOTS, the team levels up together, which adds a whole different type of mentality. But the thing is, I know some people whose children are so heavily involved in MOBAs that they have a particular attitude that has been developed in their gameplay style, that even if they sat down to, say, play an MMO, they'd bring that, well, what the heck, and throwing keyboards and, you know, what kind of, like, community does this foster, if you know what I mean?
You know, you made me think of a video back from Counter-Strike. I can dance all day. I can dance all day. Try and hit me. Try. But you know, there have been those people. That is not something new. But I think what Blizzard did is brought the attention of the MMO industry to so many people, and that anger is translated into those type of players in modern MMOs. Is it bad for some people? Is it great for other people? Absolutely.
Well, see, I think it's interesting because, you know, back in the day, if you want to go back to esports, I mean, we're taking it back to the Counter-Strike era. Let's take it back to the FPSs, the old school stuff, you know, pre-source and all that other great stuff. And God, that makes me feel really old. Blank, how old were you when you started playing FPSs? Oh, I love a banana.
Keep your calendar, keep your whatever up.
I was 14, 15?
Okay. And one of the things that I'm just going to give this to you straight off the bat. One of the things that I absolutely adore about you, Blank, is the fact that you have been very honest with us and said that you have had a transition as a game player. You have gone from that, for lack of a better term, purely centric prick to being someone who's very much about a community. I mean, look at what you do with Viking Nation as an example. But, you know, do you think that the generations that we've got coming in, because you started young playing FPSs and things like that, do you think the generations coming in are going to have that evolvement, or do you believe that it's just with the smorgasbord of games out there, it's going to be very difficult for people to have that kind of a journey?
It will be genre specific, and you will see a greater growth within the communities that foster larger petri dishes to grow. MMO, it's more than likely you might get into a group of people who, you know, when you're 15, you start talking about girl troubles in high school, and then there's that, you know, that 30-year-old army dude who tells you, you know, it ain't the end of the world, kid. Don't worry about it. Buck up and you keep on keeping on. First-person shooters and MOBAs, it's a much smaller petri dish. It's 5 guys, 5 girls, whatever, smaller clans, smaller groups. Same for like Diablo. Even if you're making this big clan, it's still 4 people, object-oriented. So it's much more difficult to have that transition. And the big thing about those is you don't need other people to get your gains. Like, if I want the best of the best at an MMO, I have to group up with other people. If my job is rusher on an FPS team, I just have to be the best effing rusher around. My job is to run up, toss that flashbang, toss that smoke, toss this grenade, get in position. If I do it faster than everybody else, I get on the best team. If my other teammates suck, I don't go anywhere. That's not. It's the variables of how important that is bigger when you've got 20 people, 25, 10, and you're all sort of helping each other. So if I miss my grenade in this example, the guy behind me is also throwing one in that 10-person, 25-person raid. So there's more people to carry that weight, and it's not just on you. The counter argument, of course, would be like, oh, but if you're the main tank, what if you're this, you're that? Well, then more than likely we give you the best gear first, because that's just the way the cookie crumbles if you want to be successful.
I'm going to jump in here because I want to hear Ed's voice real quick, because he's been a little quiet this episode. Ed?
That's all right. You're talking about your European sports, and I'm just like, meh, not interested.
Ed, if you could build a petri dish of character traits that best fit a strong community, what would they be? And what color would those character traits be? Because if you're going to build a petri dish, you got to make a kaleidoscope.
This is a bit of a random question. Have we wandered a bit off topic here?
No, we haven't, as a matter of fact, because this is going to be different than it used to be. And we are getting close to the time for us to, quote-unquote, call it. So I am trying to draw us into some conclusions.
The concept that you can have one set of character traits that builds a strong community is pretty much a misnomer, to be honest. It takes all kinds of people. There's very easily definable traits you don't want in a community, but there's a very wide range of people you want within your community. Your communities don't just want people that are all cooperative and talkative and friendly and fluffy. You need people who will drive.
Wait. Don't you want yes men in your guilds and communities?
You need people that will drive. You need people that are going to go ahead and drive the community. You're going to need people that, frankly, are going to disagree with you. You're going to need people that are able to have constructive criticism. You're going to end up being, even if you're the one in charge, you're going to end up having arguments with people, and you're going to be wrong sometimes. The idea of having a petri dish of people that have certain sets of characteristics, and they should all have those, I think is a bit of a misnomer. You need all types and traits. You just need to know what types of traits you don't want within your community and don't help your group of people progress towards whatever goal they want.
Do you think that's changed over the years? Or do you think that's pretty much been just how communities should be in general?
I think it's formalized somewhat more over the years. I don't think it's necessarily changed. I think it would have been, certainly in my experience over the years, it's been somewhat more of a natural progression, and it's certainly from my experience, but then again that may be down to the fact that game mechanics has changed and that my experience has changed as well. But I have certainly formalized that structure more as my experience is growing, so that I don't have to sit and feel someone out now, so to speak. I don't have to find out what they're interested in and have a chat with them and spend 10 levels, leveling with them and find out what they're doing and what they're good at. Now I have an application process that goes, what do you want to do? What did you do? Can I have character links? Can I see what you've done?
So technology has made it a lot easier for you.
No. I would say forum boards could do that previously as well, but the nature of game, 10 years ago, you still had bulletin boards. You could still do that there.
BVS.
A lot of guilds still do that. Yeah, a lot of guilds still use forums to do this sort of thing.
This is true.
I think it's become more commonplace. But again, I couldn't sit to say whether that is because generally is more commonplace, or that structure's formalized and my experience has become such that I feel that I can formalize those processes more.
Well, see, I would throw in there, there's always been, when it comes to human nature and human behavior, a desire to be grouped with individuals that have some kind of like-minded objective that you have. That's a natural thing. I mean, we group with people who are relatively similar to us. If you like comic books, you go to a comic book store. Hey, you're being in a community of comic book lovers. Yay. However, within that community, you may find someone who looks at you and goes, "The Dark Knight? Are you insane? Why are you reading The Dark Knight?" But
Star Trek, Star Wars.
Yeah, or take that kind of an example. However, I think when it comes to having the types of communities where you're no longer face to face, where it's more of a virtual world, I agree. I think over the years we've now started to formalize what it's like to have that digital relationship. I mean, I have yet to meet Dawn face to face. I have yet to meet Tim face to face, and hopefully someday I can. And yet here we are having a discussion with many people watching us about topics that you really couldn't pull together as quickly because of the TLDR syndrome that seems to be inherent. But, we have virtual communities now, and it does require a different set of rules than just say, hey, we're a bunch of comic book nerds hanging out. Maybe this weekend we'll play Magic the Gathering. Maybe this weekend we won't. I don't know. But, it's change. And I think you're right, Ed. And I do believe that over time, we're starting to really see that in virtual worlds, you need to have certain structures because you don't have the typical structures you'd have in a face-to-face environment. Now, I'm going to say...
that reflects...
Go ahead.
Sorry, I was just going to quickly throw in. Do you think that reflects, though, somewhat on some of the more esports communities? I think probably... Blank may be able to answer this, and Tim might be able to as well. I think that reflects more on the esport communities that don't have those larger goals, larger social structures, and more formal structures that have developed over time, because these are things like, for example, just picking things out of thin air here, League of Legends, for example, because, hey, why have a punching bag if you can't pick the biggest one there? League of Legends, for example, is new. It hasn't had time for its community to develop the same that, say, a community like WoW has over many years. And obviously you don't have those large structures as well, and you have those definitive differences that reflect each other when you have different people within those two different communities interacting within their own groups.
That's actually a really good question.
Well, World of Warcraft has grown through the years, and what, in my opinion, for Riot, they exploded. They came out with a good design, good game, good plan for marketing and stuff like that, and then the world blew up. And it was, what do we do with all of these people that were just going to casually play this game that are now tromping on forum boards, that are upset about a skin being reset back, and they didn't have anything set in place for that. They didn't have a team ready for that. It wasn't like they had customer support, but customer support is not the same as community. The community guys who are out there on the front lines, just, hey guys, just so we can be clear, this is happening, this is what's going on, this is why these things are happening, and what do you think? They did a lot of reactive things, like the tribunal and points and all of that sort of stuff, which was really good for them to see metrics on just how toxic the community was. But they still got some growth for them, mostly because in their game mode, two things. As a community, as a game, they don't have a rigid place to gate that community. It's not like they can say, hey, everybody who wants to be a pro player, come hang out here. No, it's all based on your ELO rating. It's all based on what rank you're in. There isn't a place for them to have that outlet. Their forums are there, but they still don't have those sort of social gates that you need for what they want. And again, that's part of the game design, is you can go in solo and climb the ranks. And one of the things that happened for them is, it could happen to any other of these games out there that are out there now. They started with, we're going to see where this goes. We got a good business plan. And then it turned into, now it's a sport. It's an e-sport. People want to compete for it. So those that are playing this game have this thought in their head that if they can climb high enough, or they're the best in the world, they're going to eventually get partnered, or they're going to get sponsored, and they're going to be on a team, and that's a struggle because they're behind the curve, and then now they're fighting to try and keep people around and playing when it's all like they're already kind of mucking around in the toxicity already.
That's the skateboarder syndrome.
Oh, go ahead.
It really is. It's the skateboarder syndrome. I'm a 12-year-old, and I watch all of these skateboarders. I watch Tony Hawk. I watch, and oh my God, that's what I want to do. That's where I want to be. But it's 1% of the world that ever becomes a pro anything. Yeah. And so kids, don't take this as us saying don't go after your dreams. Just be realistic.
See, oh no, go ahead.
No, I'm done. I was going to have another banana.
See, what I'm going to throw out there is, we're getting close to the show, but I think these points are well worth being made. When people talk about MMOs and they talk about the quote unquote 1%ers in an MMO, there is going to be only a certain percent of MMO players who are world firsts, who are server firsts. It's just the nature of how a game works. If it wasn't, then where's the competition? Obviously, it's in a different arena. And if you want to go into it, PvP and MMOs is the same thing. Then you throw in MOBAs, they have their own style of PvP. I mean, everything leads to, there's always going to be those 1%ers who are quote unquote the successful ones. I think the reality is people need to, and it's never going to happen, unfortunately. The world needs to get past the whole, pay attention to me, pay attention to me, pay attention to me. I'm the awesome one. And it needs to become a tiny bit more egalitarian and a little bit more, hey, we're all kind of cool. How can I help you out? How can I help you to become better so that you can play in the leagues that I play in, so that you can be the person who I go in to do PvP with? And, 10 days ago, or let's say a year ago, let's say you didn't know how to PvP, but now here you are fighting against me, and we get to have a lovely, passionate, friendly rivalry instead of this whole angsty thing of how dare you? My mouse goes through the monitor, my monitor flies out, the cat goes with it because somehow the cord got attached to the cat. I mean, that kind of mentality is bred into some communities, and I hope that anybody who is watching understands that honestly, you being part of the 1%ers, it's not as important as making certain that the game that you love, the community that you want to be a part of, remains strong. And that's my 2 cents.
Whoa.
My 2 cents. That was deep, and that gave me this thought, is that if we look at the 1%ers and the 99%ers, the 1%ers affect the 99%ers mentality in so many more ways than the 99%ers affect the 1%ers. And this is it's all sorts of weird hand gestures, and I could use different bananas and graphs and things like that, but
Venn diagrams, little buttons.
Venn diagrams. But the point is that if I'm 1%, if I'm that one person, people are going to want to mimic me. They're going to want to be like me, which I don't get because I'm a jerk. But there are those people that want to mimic.
At least you're honest about it.
1%. Hey, I'm a giant.
See, there's nothing wrong with wanting to mimic the 1%, but if the 1% is just sitting there going, yeah, I'm the badass, I'm the big balls, I'm the one who walks around, what up? Who takes on that kind of jerk, or let's be honest, douchebag mentality. If that's what people are learning from as their role models and those 1%ers, that's not very healthy for a community. It's not. And that's just, my 2 cents being thrown out there.
And it's valid. And we, as people who are passionate and driven and want to be.
Not us, never.
I'm at work. I'm literally in my office at work right now doing this. So no, I hate this industry. But listen, Sailor Jupiter, you just sit there with your Thundercat shirt on.
That's such a horrible troll because I want the shirt.
And the costume?
I can live without the costume because honestly, I think it would look better on Amy than it will on me. Just saying.
Digress. So,
but yes,
if we stop deifying those 1%ers, and other people start realizing that what they do and what they contribute is just as important, just because they may die a bunch of times in a raid doesn't make them a bad player. It makes them play the game that they want to. So when somebody says, "Oh, this is my build. This is how you should do it. This is what you should do," it takes away the concept of the game. It takes away. And I look at ESO, and this is where I'll stop. Is ESO somebody, or we'll use WildStar then people who are like, I'm going to go from 1 to 50 as quickly as I can. Why the hell did all of the developers at Carbine spend 7 or 8 years building this content so you can breeze through it and get to what one team worked on? Don't do that.
See, that's the thing. That's what Frost said during the Campfire on Friday, besides the fact that he probably made one of the best quotes I've ever heard from him, which is, blood is thicker than douchebag. It's still one of my favorite quotes from Frost. But he made mention of, there are going to be people who are going to rush to 50. There are people who are going to want to get to that end game. And then there are going to be the people who kind of take the time and devour the content that's available to them. And they love those people because they worked hard to make this. This is why I kind of, when people say, and everyone's going to have their own play style, and I'm not saying that people rushing is bad or good. You're going to have a play style. You're going to play a game that's fun for you. If that means rushing, so be it. But if they really wanted everyone to start at 50 at raid ready, why give us 1 to 50 to begin with?
Somebody once said it was training, and it's not. And I think
it used to be.
It used to be. See, I would agree that it used to be, but in today's day and age, there's so much awesome content in games. It makes a difference what type of game that you're talking about. The rush, some people get off on it, some people don't. And yes, there's a timeout. Yes, go ahead, Blink.
This is a topic
for a whole nother show.
Due diligence, because I disagree with a bunch of stuff. It's hugely important to discuss both the 1% and the 99. There are some social things in there, and there's definitely some industry. Who's responsible? Is it like if I would have never become a PvPer if it wasn't for some gladiator priest buddy who knew me from Battlegrounds, who was like, "Let me show you the next level," and I was like, "Okay." That is how I grew. That does not happen ever. Ever. So
that's the thing. This is definitely one of those topics where we're going to have to keep going and going and going because it's a big, 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 big topic. However, what I'm going to do is I'm now going to shut up and basically say, Darius, do you want to tell us a little bit about any websites or anything that you would like us to be aware of? Places that you may wish to have people check out before we say goodbye to everybody.
There's something, I think, right around here. Check out MotigaUnleashed.com.
It's actually below you.
No, it's not. I'm looking at the stream. It's above me. So, right? Yeah.
It depends.
So anyways, I guess. Oh, now I'm down. It's down there now. So, MotigaUnleashed.com. The site looks terrible. We're working on a new template, but we do interviews with some of the devs every couple weeks. We have another one coming up with one of the gameplay programmers on the 13th. So follow us there if you guys don't mind. I'm also a big member of the Stratix community. So Stratix is the oldest fan site on the internet. So make sure you head over to Stratix and check them out. They've been around since 1997.
Do you want to make certain those links go into the chat for us there?
I will do just that before I leave here. But check out Motiga.com. I'm going to plug for them because I have a bunch of friends. They are hiring. So if you want to get in the industry, check out Motiga. I got a message from Troy just a little bit ago. He says, but give everyone my undying love. So the best I can do is a banana.
I will just send hearts. In fact, I'm going to mimic Blank. Pumpkin hearts.
I didn't start that. I
know, but I'm still going to make fun of you because pumpkin hearts. But yes, and to you, Troy, who is watching and stuff, thank you. But yes, so yeah, good plugging as the case may be. And of course, now we get to the point where we say bye-byes. And I guess the only way for us to properly say goodbye is to say, Tim, do you want to sing for us?
Yes.
Excellent. So, Screen, do you want to go ahead and say bye-byes or add any last 2 cents? Pence?
Thank you for coming out tonight, everyone, and I'm going to go away and contemplate the idea of banana plugging, apparently.
Whoa! What?
We did plugging of bananas.
We are not that kind of campfire.
Plugged the banana. There, and we also took a topic and we went as deep as possible earlier, just so we're aware of the things that happened in the show today. So we went as deep as possible, and we
with a banana plug.
The banana. So,
all right.
Honestly, it doesn't. Actually,
Look,
what I was going to say was just going to make it
for
worse.
10 minutes at a time, but I can lure this show in a single sentence.
No.
Thank you. Done.
Yeah.
Now, if he goes and puts the Sailor Moon costume on, I will be done with this.
Instead, we get a foot bomb.
Wow.
nice.
But yes,
All
Blank, if you want to say your bye-byes and everything.
Goodbye. Thanks for showing up. Thanks for being here. Great to see you, Tim. I know you've been busy with real life. And communities, they are evolving. I would like to see more initiative from the development, as I've said before, development companies to see. And it's, I'm hoping that not only in places like this, but we can kind of start showing them that, hey, we're doing something pretty awesome too.
Yeah.
We're not just the people on the forums complaining about stuff. There are people out there that want to drive, feedback or help because they are genuinely, just like Tim here is, make a website because they're generally intrigued and interested and want to know.
Passionate. So. Absolutely. And I'm basically going to say my Toodle Pip early, mainly because we're going to let Tim sing us out today. So, he's gone and left. He's like, screw this. Screw this.
I have no shame.
Apparently not. But yes,
you're going to sing with me, right? We're going to do a duet.
I have no idea what song you're planning on singing. I have yet to see the movie, and yes, I know everyone keeps getting on my case about it.
Chastise her? Oh, and now I shoot everyone up.
Okay. No. Everyone is right where they need to be.
Twitch, so... All right.
Twitch is a lag thing, which I think is hysterical. That was a funny thing. We were doing the Cosmetronic on Friday live, and people were looking at the screen, and they didn't quite get that there was a delay. So they're all like, "Well, hey, oh wait, well, hey, well, hey, oh, hey." It was just like, yeah, that was cute.
Awesome.
But yeah,
you gonna sing with me, Don? Let it go.
Don doesn't sing. He doesn't dance either.
Embarrassing things that I can't even get away. I'm in my stream where I think I'm safe, and and then people are making videos, and so I'll let you have this one. The spotlight's all yours, Tim.
All right. Well, guys, it's been a pleasure. It's time that we let it go, let it go. That was it. That's all I got.
I was expecting like the full chorus, the refrain.
Sailing like this swirling storm inside. Can't keep it in. Heaven knows I've tried.
Greetings, everyone. Pseudo here. Thanks for watching episode 17 of the Campfire, where we had a very special guest, Tim. And if you are interested in learning more about MotigaUnleashed, links are below. If you have any questions or comments, leave them below as well. And of course, if you want to watch a previous episode, click on the bobbling heads at the top. And, I'm going to ask you to click like, favorite, share, the typical stuff. Speak with you soon. Toodle pip.